Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going straight to the source, into the minds of marketing legends Ries and Jack Trout.
Yeah, and their work isn't just a collection of good ideas. They frame them as non-negotiable laws that really determine if a business wins or loses.
It's a foundational text on strategic positioning for sure.
Absolutely. Ries and Trout saw that most business failures weren't because of bad products or, poor execution. They were because these businesses were violating predictable rules about how a customer's mind actually works.
So if you feel like you're stuck, just competing in a really crowded market,
This is your escape map.
okay, let's start with this core paradox they talk about. Imagine two businesses. They launch identical products, identical prices. Both have good funding, great teams. But a couple of years later, one is the clear industry leader and the other one has just vanished.
So what's the difference? I mean, if the product, the price, the effort, if all that is the same, the variable has to be something else.
It has to be the strategic positioning. The mistake is thinking that marketing is just, a set of optional tactics.
Exactly. Ries and Trout's whole argument is that it's governed by immutable laws.
Right. You can't argue with gravity, and they'd say you can't argue with these laws either. Break them, you fail. So our mission for this deep dive is to get into 6 of these specific laws, the ones that grant a business, well, the ultimate advantage: pricing power.
And pricing power is really the end game here. It's the ability to position yourself so uniquely that price becomes secondary for the customer. You become the only obvious choice.
The default solution.
The default solution, and your competitors are just left scrambling, trying to undercut each other. If you're always competing on price, you've already lost the war. This is about setting the price, not chasing it.
Okay, let's unpack that. It all starts in one place, right? The battle for the mind. So the first principle we really need to get our heads around is the law of leadership. And this one, it cuts against every single instinct a perfectionist entrepreneur has.
Oh, it really does.
The law is simple. It's better to be first than it is to be better.
And that's tough to hear because most founders spend all their time and energy trying to build a better mousetrap. Superior features, a cleaner design, maybe it's a little bit faster.
But the first brand to get into the customer's mind just sort of sets up camp there, becomes the leader almost regardless of what comes after.
Right. They use that Lindbergh analogy in the book, which is perfect.
Yeah, who was the first person to fly solo across the Atlantic? Everyone knows Charles Lindbergh. That's just locked in. But who was second?
I have no idea. And you know what? The second person's flight was probably technically better, safer, maybe a faster plane.
But it doesn't matter. They're completely irrelevant in our collective memory.
And what's really fascinating is the economic result of being first. When you're first, you create this powerful perception. Customers just instinctively assume the first one must be the best one.
The original, the most authentic.
Exactly. And that perception is pricing power. The leader gets to set the price for the whole category. Everyone who comes after is just a follower, and they're forced to compete on price to even justify their existence.
So if you're trying to enter the electric vehicle market today, trying to build a technically better sedan than Tesla is it's a monumental and expensive task.
You're always playing catch up.
Always. So the strategic move then, if you can't be first in a big market, is to apply that law by creating a new category where you are, by definition, first.
Right. Don't be another better project management tool. Be the first project management tool that's built just for, say, independent film editors who are managing remote teams.
And just like that, you've created a white space. You're instantly the leader. You get to set the price for that niche.
But being first isn't enough to win long-term if you don't grasp the second law, the law of the mind.
Which is that marketing is a battle of perceptions, not a battle of products.
This is probably the most painful one for people who are obsessed with their product. They truly believe that better quality has to win in the end.
That technical superiority will eventually triumph.
But it often doesn't. Reality doesn't matter as much as perception does. An inferior product with a superior position in the mind will, more often than not, dominate a technically excellent product that's poorly positioned.
Okay, wait, let me push back on that a little. If the product truly doesn't matter, why don't we all just go out and sell snake oil? There has to be a line, right?
That's a great question. The product quality isn't irrelevant. Think of it as the cost of entry. It's the maintenance fee you pay to keep your spot in the customer's mind.
So perception gets you the first sale.
And the product quality prevents your brand from collapsing right after. But the war for market share, for dominance, that is still fought and won in the mind. I mean, think about the biggest fast food chains. Are they objectively serving the best hamburger in the world?
No, not even close. But they don't have to. They're selling a perception.
What perception is that?
Speed, convenience, familiarity.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get every single time.
Exactly. So the small coffee shop that's obsessed with the highest grade single origin beans can easily lose to the big chain that owns the perception of being the neighborhood's living room.
People aren't just choosing based on taste. They're choosing community or comfort or speed.
Which proves the point. Technical superiority without a perceptual advantage is, in the long run, almost worthless.
So the goal is to define our space and then lock it down in the customer's brain. Okay, let's move on to how we actually establish that uncontested territory. This brings us right to law number 3, the law of focus. This is where you get crystal clear on what perception you actually want to own. And according to Ries and Trout, the most powerful thing you can do is own one word in the customer's mind.
Just one word. Not a mission statement, not a tagline, and definitely not a long list of features.
Why just one?
Because a single word is a mental shortcut, and our brains are wired to look for shortcuts. When a customer needs that concept, that one word should automatically trigger your brand.
I love how much clarity that forces. You know, you think of the classics. Volvo owns safety.
FedEx owns overnight.
What about a more modern one? Zoom completely owns video meetings. Before them, there were dozens of web conferencing tools, but now Zoom is the verb. It is the category.
And that singular focus has to drive your entire strategy. If you try to own 5 different words, you end up owning none of them.
So if you're a consultant, the unfocused approach is telling people you do strategy, operations, sales, and a bunch of other things. You're instantly forgettable.
But if you decide, no, I'm going to own the word systems, then everything you do, every piece of content you create, has to reinforce that one idea, systematizing businesses so they can run without the owner.
That focus makes you instantly memorable. The moment a business owner thinks, I am so tired, I need to get systems in place, your name should just pop into their head.
And crucially, it lets you charge a premium. You're a specialist, not a generalist.
Which leads perfectly into law number 4, the law of exclusivity. If law 3 is about claiming your word, this one is about defending it.
Right. And the law is harsh. 2 companies cannot own the same word in the customer's mind.
So if a competitor already owns a position, trying to take it from them is just
a futile and very expensive exercise. This is probably the most common fatal mistake in business. People see a successful company and think, I'll just do that, but I'll be a little bit better or a little bit cheaper.
And what happens is the customer's mind just immediately files you away as an imitator. You're the other one, or the cheap version of brand X. You're defining yourself by your competitor.
You're sacrificing your own identity to fight on their turf. This is where strategy forces you to be creative. If your main competitor in project management software already owns the word simple, you can't win by trying to be simpler.
You have to find a different word, uncontested territory.
Exactly. Find that white space. Maybe you own integration for companies that need to connect lots of different tools. Or maybe you own scale for huge enterprise clients.
By doing that, you avoid the price war completely because you're not even in the same conversation. You're positioned differently.
Fighting for occupied territory is just a way to burn through your budget. Finding unoccupied territory is strategic, it's profitable, and it makes you the leader of your own niche.
Okay, so we know we need to be first in the mind and own a unique word. But to get real pricing power, that takes discipline. It takes making some hard, often counterintuitive choices. Let's talk about that with law number 5, the law of sacrifice.
The principle here is so simple, but so hard to do. To gain something, you have to give something up. You have to sacrifice breadth, your product line, your target market, your message, to get that laser focus we were just talking about.
And this is the exact moment where business owners just freeze. I mean, the immediate fear is, if I narrow my focus, I'm leaving money on the table, I'm excluding all these potential customers.
It's terrifying to look at a whole market and deliberately decide to ignore 95% of it.
But the reality is the exact opposite, isn't it?
Completely. When you narrow your target, you strengthen your appeal to that small segment you're focused on. They see you as the perfect, bespoke solution that was built just for them. When you try to appeal to everyone, you dilute your message and appeal to no one.
It's like the difference between a family doctor and a neurosurgeon. The neurosurgeon sacrifices serving the general population, but that depth of focus allows them to command the absolute highest price.
Let's make it more concrete. Imagine you're a marketing agency. Instead of saying you help all small businesses with all their marketing, You make a sacrifice.
You sacrifice B2C clients, you sacrifice startups, enterprise.
Right. And you focus only on, let's say, direct-to-consumer mattress brands that are earning over $5 million a year. And you optimize their retention marketing.
Wow. Okay, so you've just sacrificed 99% of the potential market.
You have. But for that very narrow, very high-value segment, those DTC mattress brands, who are you now?
You're the undisputed, obvious choice,
Yeah.
the specialist.
And that lets you charge specialist fees and attract the best clients who need exactly what you do. Sacrifice is the engine of pricing power. If you try to serve everyone, you don't serve anyone well enough to justify a premium.
Which brings us to the final and maybe the hardest law to actually follow. Law number 6, the law of perspective. This is all about playing the long game.
Yes. The core idea is that marketing effects happen over a long period of time, and what works really well in the short run often has the exact opposite effect in the long run.
This law is basically a direct assault on short-term thinking.
It is. A business that's obsessed with hitting its numbers for the next quarter will almost always resort to desperate tactics, and the number one desperate tactic is
Discounting, running constant sales and promotions.
it's the classic short-term win that leads to a long-term disaster. You get a quick hit of cash flow today.
But what are you teaching your customers?
You are systematically training them to wait for a sale. You're telling them, with your actions, that your product is not actually worth the full price. You devalue your brand, you kill your margins, and you create this dependency on discounts.
So if you're selling, say, an online subscription, and you're constantly running 50% off deals, your most loyal customers, the ones paying full price, start to feel like suckers.
And new customers come in expecting that discount forever. You're trapped. You've dug your own grave.
So long-term thinking, by contrast, is just strategic patience.
That's all it is. Launch your subscription at full price. Maintain that price. Yes, you might get slower growth at the very beginning, but you're building a premium perception that creates sustainable pricing power over years, not months.
Perspective is about winning the war, not just today's little battle.
Exactly. The brands that relentlessly chase quarterly results with these tactics, they eventually erode their position until they're just known as the discount option. Meanwhile, the brands with strategic patience, they're the ones that build empires. So the big takeaway from all of this is that positioning isn't something you do after you launch your product. It's the strategy you define before you even start building. These laws help you define your territory in the market.
And we want you to leave this deep dive with something you can do right now, an actionable step that applies the law of focus and the law of sacrifice. This should take you maybe 10 minutes.
Okay, open a blank document. Step 1. Write down the single most powerful word you want your business to own in your customer's mind.
Step 2. Go to Google. Search for that word plus your industry. You have to see who already owns it. If you search for safety equipment and your word is reliability, but a huge player already dominates that.
Cross it out. You have to find a word that's distinct and available. Seek that unoccupied territory.
Step 3. Keep going until you find one.
Okay, step 4 is the law of sacrifice. Define the absolute narrowest possible market you're willing to serve, and be ruthless. Explicitly name who you are not for.
And finally, step 5. Combine all of that into your new guiding principle, a simple sentence. We own your word in your narrow, defined market. Everything we do, from product development to customer service, has to reinforce that word for this specific group.
That sentence becomes your North Star.
And that single shift from chasing every customer to dominating a specific segment with a single word, that is the path away from competing on price and toward real, sustainable profit.
If you take one thing away from this whole deep dive, it should be this. Marketing is warfare, and it's fought in the mind of the customer.
Position strategically, or you will perish by competing on price.
You know, Ries and Trout watched thousands of businesses fail. And it wasn't because of bad technology or a bad economy. It was because of bad positioning. They broke these immutable rules.
So now that you're equipped with these laws of leadership, focus, and perspective, the choice is really yours. Are you going to keep chasing irrelevant discounts and fighting for scraps? Or are you going to go out and claim your uncontested territory? The game is being played in the mind. Make sure you're the one writing the rules.